burdens as I'm growing older is I'm getting afraid. I tend to be afraid when a person says, I want to go to heaven. I wonder what does he think of heaven? Because we have abused this whole idea of going to heaven to a point where we embrace mediocrity and laziness because we're going to go to heaven. The people who are going to go to heaven, they don't want to go to school because they want to go to heaven. They don't want to work because they want to go to heaven. They want to clean the social involvement because they want to go to heaven. It comes to all kinds of things. I'm going to heaven. I'm going to heaven. And the whole thing now becomes very repugnant to those who may be actually taking what you are deeming as important, very important, and then they say, listen, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I'm not interested. And you've heard of the saying that some are tempted at times to be so heavenly minded that they are not earthly good. In other words, this whole thing of heaven, if it is not correctly understood, can make us very irrelevant. It can make us not earthly good. It can actually make God a laughing stock. If you have registered for a course here, and because you're going to heaven, you don't take that course seriously. No one is going to take your course, this heaven course, very seriously. And I believe, as I said earlier on, that the whole idea of heaven is not to escape reality. It's not to escape life. And by life, we mean academic life, we mean social life, we mean everything that has to do with life. It's not to escape that. We're not trying to run away from life. Not an ecclesiastical suicide sanctioned by the church. No. When we think of heaven, when we think of the second coming of Christ, it is because we want life, not escape it. In other words, we want to live. Disabuse your mind. Stop thinking that. I mean, that's what the Bible seeks to say. That because you're reading the Bible, you're going to be restrained to your disadvantage. Because all the philosophies that have come challenging the Bible in one way or the other seek to establish one thing, that because of religion, and to a certain extent that may be true, we are restrained, so now we must celebrate our freedom. We're free now, we can express ourselves, and then the whole birth of individualism. I can live as I want now. I'm free from religion. Have you ever seen a person who used to go to church and then one day discovers that he can actually not go to church, and God is not going to chase him and kill him? And then he says, yes, even the right. So then it feels like you are experiencing some freedom. I can sleep where I want to sleep. I can sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. I can drink whatever I want to drink. But that's not freedom. Freedom is being able not to drink that which is injurious to your body. That's freedom. You are not free if you drink anything. That's not freedom. You are a slave. Freedom is to say, I will not take that. Then you are free. You can't say you are free when your freedom is between choosing which cigarette to drink, to smoke. And you call that freedom. And your freedom is only on what brand to smoke. But freedom is also choosing not to smoke. It's not just choosing. All right, so I thought if we probably get this biblical view of second coming, it might inject some meaning and purpose, and probably make us not to be shy. When a person says, so now it's like, okay, where do I start? Because you know there's a lot of misunderstanding, and you wish you would have time to say, but. You know, because there's so much that is that comes with that, you know. Oh, you are this type that doesn't, you are this type that does, you know, all of that, yeah, this type that does. And so you're afraid, you want to explain and all right, so we start with just again connecting what we said yesterday is basically these kingdoms come and go and occupy the stage, and God holds them responsible. Of course, when he speaks to the king, he's speaking to the whole kingdom. All those kingdoms, and if you can look into your history, you'll discover that all those kingdoms came, probably started well a little bit. I mean, look at Babylon. Babylon started very well. Because when Babylon came into existence, into the historical stage, the first thing they did, not Babylon, Middle Persia, the first thing they did was to encourage and sponsor and make sure that they fund the whole project of Israel going back home. They did that. So go and worship, go and be free. Actually, I mean, you look at Ezra, and Ezra, Cyrus says, this is it. Cyrus could know, he knew exactly that it was because of God's sovereignty, it was because of God's power that he was in control. And he appreciated that. Because remember, 200 years before Cyrus is born, in Isaiah 45, I think, the name Cyrus is mentioned before there was even a mother to Cyrus. That Cyrus is an anointed, has been anointed, is God's servant. God has chosen him to do something 200 years later. So when the Jews in Middle Persia said, look, your name is in our scriptures. Then he looks back and he says, no wonder I conquered Babylon, because there's no way I could have conquered Babylon. The whole thing itself, there's so many things that just fell into place for me to conquer Babylon. It is clear that it was God's provision and providence that I conquered. And then he says, go home. So you see what is happening? So during Cyrus, and later on some emperors of course had issues, but during Cyrus' time, it wasn't. But later on as Middle Persia progressed, then there was persecution, there was this. Guys like Ahasuerus, then there were Artaxerxes and many others. And they tried their best, but at some point they forgot the reason why God had placed them there. And then it was the end. But what we said yesterday was, in the transition from one kingdom to the other, there is some form of judgment. I hope you understand that. There is some form of judgment. In other words, God says, listen, I'm going to take this kingdom, but let me tell you why I'm going to do it. I don't want you to think that I'm this. And now I'm going to show you why it's important for God to do that. Today I'm going to show you what's important. And then he leaves it. So, which means with the successive and the succeeding kingdoms, that's basically the modus operandi. That's how God operated. So we expect the same thing before he also comes in. So what are we trying to say here? In Daniel chapter 2, Jesus Christ